Welcome to the Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina, and my guest today is a runner from the community we all know very well, Jeff Wehling. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to
Thanks
be
for
here.
being my guest co-host. It seems like you're kind of a fixture when it comes to being out and pounding the pavement. How long have you been running?
Well, it's kind of funny, a lot of people think that I've been running since forever. To be honest, I ran one day of cross country in high school, and I either didn't get the memo or I ignored the warnings to be ready for the first day of legitimate practice. So the 5 mile warm up kind of freaked me out. I survived that, and then we went to the hills and did 880 repeats for a while, and I was so completely worn out and discouraged by the time I got done. I quit.
Oh,
So that was a long time ago in the
yeah.
80s. So after that, when I moved to Missouri, I met a friend who lived next door, and I don't even know how or why it came to be, but he's like, "Hey, we should run the Sunshine Run 10K." And this was probably 86, I'm thinking. And I think we kind of trained. We really didn't know what we were doing. We ran and we showed up and did the race. And then that was it until several years after. I was 41 years old and not happy with the way I felt, not happy with the way I looked. And I said, I need to do something, and I'm going to try to restart my running, I'll say career, but
Yeah.
my attempt at being a runner. So that was at age 41, and 59 now. So I guess I've only been running consistently for however many years that is, 18, 17.
Did you do anything else fitness wise, or were you just pretty much like, every now and then I'll go out and do something?
I I got real serious with a buddy of mine. He was a bodybuilder, so we did a lot of gym work when I was going to college. Um, I was pretty serious about it because I was kind of supporting him, but I kind of enjoyed it. So we were hitting the gym probably 6 days a week, a lot of two-a-days and stuff, trying to get him ready for competitions. And he was very inspirational to me. He was like 5'3" and a half, maybe, and incredibly strong. And so it was fun to go to the gym with him, and he would sit there and curl his body weight for reps, and I'm just like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
how does
Yeah.
he do that? And so we'd help each other, spot each other, motivate each other, and I really enjoyed that. And then I guess probably as college wound down and um, I started working more, then yeah, the sedentary lifestyle took over. Was married, had a child, so things changed, which
Yeah.
is not an excuse, but that's just kind of the way it went.
Yeah.
So, I worked a lot, stressful, ate poorly, um, drank too much, and it just got to the point where it was not pleasant, you
Yeah.
know.
So why running?
Probably just for the low barrier of entry, it's like all you have to do is, which is the hardest thing, is put the shoes on and the shorts on. That can be the hardest thing some days, but then all you have to do is open the door.
Hmm.
Um, and I ran around the block, and really struggled. Ran around the block twice the next time, and built a little bit of confidence. And then I told myself, okay, I guess I'm going to give this an honest effort. As soon as I can run a 5K that distance without walking, I'm going to actually buy myself a real pair of running shoes. And, at the time, they were Brooks Adrenaline GTS 5s. I remember them, and I spent an ungodly amount of money, like $79, at the time was crazy.
Yeah.
Now they're 179, right?
Yes. Yes.
Uh, but oh, what a difference that made, getting a
Uh-huh.
real pair of shoes. And I think at that point, Mary owned Ridge Runner Sports,
Yes.
the shoe store. And, I think, I kind of started seeing, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of running going on around here. And I'm competitive by nature. So, um, it kind of transpired into, okay, there's 5K races just about every weekend. And, maybe I'll give that a try. So, not really following any formal training. And I don't even remember how many days a week I ran or whatever, but um, it just began that I collected lots of t-shirts running 5Ks
Yes.
for a while.
Yeah.
And for some reason put them in a box like anybody would want them. And I think I finally took them to donation a few years ago.
I mean,
But
that used
it
to
was,
be the biggest thing. I mean, the t-shirt was it. You almost
oh,
didn't care if you got a medal, you got a shirt,
yeah,
you know.
true,
So,
true.
but once you get bit by that bug and you start seeing your performance improve, the medals are pretty
Absolutely.
nice.
Yes, absolutely.
So what was that like for you to actually run a race besides that kind of rogue sunshine run, but one
Right.
where you had actually put on the shoes and did some training? What was that like?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. 5Ks hurt if you're running them hard, but
Hmm.
you were there with, it's like the community was great, met all kinds of people, which was, motivating. You'd see the fast folks go out and it just kind of pull the whole group along. You always had somebody there to challenge you and to challenge yourself. Um, so yeah, it was great, and eventually, made some great friends in the community through running. And um, the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I was kind of a seasonal runner. I had a lawn and landscape business, so I worked an awful lot spring, summer, fall. So I would, run in the fall, run in the winter, and then when season started again, I'd kind of taper off. And I did that for a little while, and then realized, gosh, this starting over is
Yeah.
rough.
Yes.
And everybody says, well, you're busy, you're working all the time, but it doesn't translate. Running
Yeah.
is running.
Yes.
Um, so at some point, I decided, I'm just going to do this year round. And had at that point had met some friends that ran, so we had that camaraderie and that accountability. Hey, we're meeting at such and such a time. And that's nice, because some days solo is rough. The excuses sneak in. But
Hmm.
so yeah, it was, a great fitness, mental clarity, and then making all kinds of new friends. And slowly those factors just turned into a lifestyle. You start to think, well, do I really need that milkshake, or do I need to eat this big meal because I got to run in the morning? And then, you know, friends would ask you to go out, and you're like, yeah, I got to get up at 5 and run in the morning.
Yeah.
I can't go to that concert or whatever at nine
Right.
o'clock. That's,
Yep.
so yeah, yeah. There's kind of a big shift there, um, for the better. I mean, definitely.
Yeah. When
So
did you start tackling longer races and what's your longest distance to date?
in I believe it was 2010, I ran a half marathon on Frisco. Um, there were several versions of it, and to be honest, at this point, I can't remember exactly. But I was out there in my baggy shorts and my long sleeve cotton t-shirt, and I ran that half marathon and finished and said, "Oh, how do people turn around and run this distance again, a
Mhm.
marathon?" That's, and I'm
Right.
like, and then I said the words, "I will never run a marathon." And then, of course, Bass Pro that fall. I did.
You ran a marathon.
I
You
ran a
got bit by
marathon.
the bug.
I ran my first marathon there, and so I guess from that half marathon was in April, I believe, March or April, and then by November of that year, I had run my first
Yeah.
marathon. And believe it or not, before I even completed that race, I thought it would be cool to run a marathon in another state, so I had signed up for one in California, and then I guess subconsciously I was already hooked. Even though I said I didn't really want to run a marathon, I signed up for two, and then things got way out of hand after that.
Yeah. Did you ever get to the point where you felt like you needed to cut back?
Um, yes, um, I've like I said, I ran that, and then I did the second one, and then I'm like, well, maybe I can qualify for Boston. So then on my third one, I ran in Omaha, and I met people from Springfield in Omaha
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I just recognized them. I'm like, hey, aren't you guys from? And they're like, yeah. So they did that, and then they said, hey, you should come run Las Vegas. It'd be really fun. And I'm like, okay. And that race, I thought, I really had a chance to qualify for Boston. And I'll spare you the details of the history of that first year that they ran the Vegas Marathon on the Strip, but it was a complete nightmare.
Yes, I
And
remember hearing that.
yeah, and again, I missed the time by a little bit. And my friend Brian Wright from Springfield, who lives in Tennessee now, who's run,
Mm-hmm.
very accomplished runner.
Yes.
He's like, hey man, I'm sorry you missed your time in Vegas, but Run for the Ranch is in 2 weeks. And if you run two marathons in 2 weeks, you can be a marathon maniac. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's do that too.
Why
So
not?
hook, line, and sinker. I guess I slowly started my progression of running a marathon in every state. So with urging of several people in the Maniacs group and several local people that had done it, and then they're like, hey, there's also a group that does the 50 states sub 4. John Everett here in town, and Curtis Revore, and Becky Lawrence, and Branson, and Richard, who used to run the OMRR group.
Yeah.
They had all done it. And I'm like, wow, that's super cool. And so far, all of my marathons have been under 4, so I should just keep going. So it was a great accomplishment. But after I completed that, I'm like, okay, where's my why, in running?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because uh, to be honest, there's people that are doing the states for their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time, and I think they're crazy, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But to me, my why was kind of, I don't know, in question. It's like, okay, well, I accomplished this goal, but why would I want to keep doing that? People would ask me, they're like, wow, you ran such and such a race, like Hartford, Connecticut. How was that race? I'm like, I don't know. It was great. It was cool. Started and finished in this neat park. But, I'd fly out on a Friday, run the race on a Saturday, and then either fly back Saturday night or Sunday morning just to check that box. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is cool. But, um, so, I kind of was kind of tired of, maybe burned out of the pounding of the pavement. So then I thought I would run longer distances because why not, right?
You got to
So,
have a goal. You got to
so
have a
yeah,
challenge.
right. So yeah, so then I was doing a few more 50Ks and decided it'd be a good idea to run a 100 miler. So um, I did that, and it was an amazing experience. Tough, but super cool. I mean, the mental aspect of running that far. I mean, you ask anybody or you mention it to anybody, and you hear, "Oh, I don't even like driving that far," and I'm like, "Yeah, I get it.
Mhm.
100 miles is a long way," but
Mhm.
but it was really good. And again, with the community, it's great. There were several people that I knew doing that race. I had a great friend, Derek Gloss, that came and paced me, which is, for those that aren't runners, a pacer runs with you, kind of moral support, motivational support. They can't carry any of your nutrition or water, but they're there. They encourage, and he was a great help
Yeah.
for sure. And so that's I've done that twice, and at this point, I really don't have any desire to do it again. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say never because I've said
Yeah.
that before.
Right.
So yeah, so 100 miles is it, and believe it or not, there's like that's not even considered that long anymore. There's 200, 250, 300-mile races now.
Yeah.
Uh, they had a recent competition where the winner ran 450 miles straight over, I don't even know how many hours, 80 some odd hours with no sleep. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. No
Uh,
thanks.
and I love how a lot of these people are running these long trails, whether it be like the John Muir Trail or, these races where they run Cocodona 250 through Arizona. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, but I'd like to do that distance, but I would like to do it over maybe 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually be able to enjoy it, sleep at night, get
Right.
up, see the sunrise, and see the scenery. Those guys are just out there grinding, and
Yeah.
that's, to me, it's impressive, but not. I don't envy. I don't want to do that. So,
Right, right. So, no, like many runners know, no matter what distance, when you get invested, you're putting a lot of wear and tear on your body. So, what kind of
absolutely.
injuries have you had to endure and recover from?
Well,
Oh
I'm
no, what?
knocking on wood. Oddly enough, when I first kind of got into the 5K thing, I was working my lawn business, and I stepped down from my trailer and I hyperflexed my knee and ended up tearing the meniscus.
Oh,
And through a series of crazy events that kept delaying procedures, I ended up not having it kind of resolved itself. So I don't know if whatever tore just kind of tore off and disintegrated, or it wasn't a serious tear. So maybe I was fortunate. So I'll say that's my worst injury. I mean, it was painful, and I was hobbling around. I still worked and got through it. And one other time, I was being dumb and trying to reach a mileage goal for the year, and I was really pushing at the end of the year, and I had I'll say it was Achilles tendonitis. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was super painful, and I missed 9 days of running there.
oh,
But that's probably the worst of it. I've had niggles or nicks and stuff here and there where I've had to take off a little, day or so. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
generally I have a pretty good feel for my body, and I know when I'm injured versus when I'm just hurting. And
yeah.
I've changed things around. I've done, get on the treadmill. It's a little softer. Um, I've done, elliptical is nice. It reduces the impact. Cycling, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
stationary bike or get out on the road. Swimming. There's a thing called pool running where you
Mm-hmm.
wear a flotation belt and you kind of just hover in the water and you just run. And it
Yeah.
seems really awkward at first, but it's a really good way to keep the mobility without the impact. So, um, I understand a lot of people that get into running and then you hear, oh, I can't run, my knees, my back, my hips, my this, that, and the other. And I can't judge somebody else's pain or injury, but there's always things you can do to still work around it and stay
Mm-hmm.
mobile and stay healthy until whatever issue it is resolves. again, unless there's, structural bones, tear,
For sure.
serious stuff,
For
which,
sure. And strength training, I assume you
yes,
incorporate that for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Particularly as you get older, our bones, kind of decrease in density. So putting load on your body
Mm-hmm.
rebuilds, for lack of a better word, your bone strength and your muscles and tendons and everything else. But um, so yeah, I strongly suggest strength training, and
Yeah.
it doesn't even need necessarily to be slamming heavy weights in the gym. You
No.
can just body squats, sit ups, dips, push ups,
For sure.
planks. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of times it gets overcomplicated, and you
Yeah.
know and then sometimes you watch the morning show and they're curling cans of green beans and you think it's silly, but it's resistance.
It's resistance. Yeah. It,
And
it works.
anything you can do beyond the normal pressures of life on your body through resistance, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So I mean, just I don't claim to be an exercise physiologist, but if it's harder and it's pushing your body beyond normally what you do, it's resistance training and it's going to help.
Since you really got into your running and your fitness around 40,
Yeah,
what's it been like? Because usually that's where a lot of people start seeing their setbacks if
right.
they've been doing it lifelong. And that's kind of where you started. So, was it strange for you to start? Because you were obviously on an incline at starting at
Yes.
that point, you went up, but did you have any weird occurrences as you were aging and building your fitness?
Um, I noticed that a lot of people that were my age were beginning to decline, and I was, like you said, I was getting more efficient and getting stronger and faster. Um, so it was kind of nice to place in age groups for a while.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's exceptions, but there's a lot of people, runners that started in middle high school. And by the time they reach this, the age of when I started running, they're physically breaking down maybe, or they're mentally, like, I'm over this,
Hmm.
or a combination of the two, or other, physical things that are, making it harder for them. So I knew that I had maybe a little bit of an advantage because I didn't have all those miles on my body already.
Hmm.
But with that said, in my line of work, I'm walking 20 to 35,000 steps a day anyway. So I guess I'm
You're
out there
busy. Yeah.
wear and tear too. But
Being
yeah,
on your feet a lot helps no matter what.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. But it can make, people ask, oh my God, you're on your feet 8, 10, 11 hours a day. How do you get your running in? I said, I wake up early.
Yeah.
Because 9 out of 10 times, if you say you're going to run in the afternoon, it doesn't happen because you've had all day to get tired and come up with excuses. And
Yeah.
um, so occasionally, when I was, trying to be fast, I would put a set of running clothes in my work truck, and wherever I ended that day, I just changed my clothes and ran before I went home, before I put the equipment up, because
Yeah.
that couch will just take over as soon as you get
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. That's
So
kind of how I've always been a morning runner, and that's just I'm with you. I
I
can't do it
know. I've
later in
seen
the
you
day.
out there.
It's like if it doesn't happen early, it's not going to happen the same
Right.
way at
Right.
all.
I mean,
So,
life takes over, and
yeah.
it's not easy, You've got
Mhm.
family obligations and work, and you know, you got to get up at 4:30, and it's like, ugh,
Mhm.
it's tough some days. But like I tell anybody with any new habit, the first 2 to 3 weeks, and I won't use a cuss word, but the first 2 or 3 weeks are horrible.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
But after that, it's worth it for sure.
For sure. The benefits definitely outweigh. The reward is it's unexplainable. I've really always felt like runner is such a great life teacher.
Yeah.
for so
Oh,
many things. I don't know how you feel about that,
sure.
but
Sure.
it just
Yeah. I
seems
mean,
like it fits
you
in.
it's like there's a starting point and there's a finishing point, and you're going to give, I mean, I've had one DNF. DNF is where you do not finish a race. And, but, during a race, you're going to finish. I mean, just like if you have a task at work or you're helping your child do homework, you can't just bail in the middle of it. So I
Right.
think it helps, it helps with toughness. It definitely helps with time management.
Yeah.
Because, if you're running, 45 minutes to an hour and a half several times a day and longer on the weekends, you have to plan that. And you
Hmm.
still, but I'm a strong believer in busy people get things done.
Yeah.
Um, I think we've all kind of slid into the habit of, sit down, whatever it is, read a book, do whatever hobby you are, watch TV. And before you know it, you look up and 3 hours have vanished and you've eaten a half a bag of Fritos, and it's like, oh no,
Hmm.
what just happened?
Hmm.
So yeah, staying busy, you get it done, and for some reason, right now, my wife and I decided we're going to do this program called 75 Hard, and part of that program is you have to do two 45-minute workouts daily for
Oh, okay.
75 days, and
Okay.
there's other things that go on too, but that really takes some planning, because you can't do an hour and a half and check the box. You got to do two 45-minute workouts. One of them's got to be outside. So, um, you know, as runners, it's like, okay, cool. I love running when it snows. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so it seems to me like for me, I always have to have some challenge in front of me. I always have to
Yeah.
have a race on the schedule. Um, because I can slip into, you know, destructive habits just like anybody else, where you know,
Yeah.
lay on the couch all day, or,
Yeah.
eat a bunch of garbage, or, not drink enough water. And then you feel crappy and you're like, how did this happen? And then well, I did it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of how I approach it. Like we've got a goal race in May. I'm going to try to go back to Boston, which the only time I ran it was the year of the bombing. So I'd like to go and
Oh, right.
have a better experience. So we'll see.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about, kind of encouraging people at whatever age to get into running. Cause like you, I didn't do running in high school. That
Mhm.
wasn't anything that I felt like I was good at, or, it was just more of a punishment,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
to facilitate another sport. I think we had to do it for tennis or something like that.
Sure.
So I did it, didn't really love it, but I felt like once I realized I could take it at my speed
Yes.
and really, like you said, get involved with the community, it was just a different game. It was just something
Yeah.
like, wow, I can do this. And I want other
Sure.
people to feel like that running is for everybody. It's not just
It
for
is
a
totally.
particular college athlete, high school athlete, or elite group. So how do you feel or encourage people that are just like mesmerized by what you do, because you've really had some great accomplishments?
Well, thank you. I just kind of one little saying that I stole from somebody. I don't know who it is, but movement is medicine. Just get out there, and it doesn't matter if you can't run two times around the block. Run for 20 seconds,
Yeah.
walk for 20 seconds, run for 20 seconds, and then you know you'll get those little victories, and that'll get you out there the next time. It's like, wow, I can't believe it. I did 6 repetitions of 20 seconds. Look at me, and that's great. And then maybe next time it'll be 30 seconds. And then maybe next time you'll run a whole mile without stopping. Uh, and maybe that's not your goal. Maybe you just want to run a half a mile and then you're going to walk a half a mile, whatever it is. For me and a lot of people I know, the competitive bug sneaks in there, and then you know, it's a good thing, I think, because it pushes you and gives you some goals. But I know a lot of people that absolutely just run on their own and they just love it. It's like meditation. It's time that they get to clear their head and maybe get away from friends and family that maybe get on their nerves a little bit. And it just
Mhm.
gives them that time. And so, benefits are immense from running. Um, like my route, it was great. I met a lot of friends, had a lot of uh, goals to achieve, and that's kind of motivates me more than anything. But you just got to find your why,
Yeah.
um, and be patient with it. It's uncomfortable at first, like anything. You change any habit, but like the old saying, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And if you're not happy with what you got, you got to do something different.
Gotta change it.
So, like I said, for me, that first goal of running 3 miles, I was going to reward myself with a new pair of shoes, and that kick-started me to really get after it because I think part of it was, oh my gosh, I spent all this money on these shoes. I have to run
I
now.
need to use them. We're gonna wear
And
these puppies out.
right. And then, that could kind of turn into a shoe collection, Ooh, I gotta have
Oh,
this one, gotta have that one, so I don't even, I think I've got 6 pair in rotation now and 2 on the
yeah.
shelf that haven't been opened.
Yes, I'm familiar. But
But
yeah,
there
it's
can be worse habits for sure.
absolutely can. Now, this challenge that you and your wife are doing, is that something you guys are just doing together? Or are you opening that up for the community?
It's something we're doing together, and we're
Okay.
following a plan if somebody else had started it several years ago, and we've had friends that do it, and I just thought, well, that looks really tough. We should do it.
We should do it. Do hard things.
Yeah, it's called 75 hard, and I'm not
All right.
plugging them, but people probably know what it is, or they can look it
Yeah.
up, and uh, it's more of a mental toughness thing than it is a physical thing. So if anybody's interested, they can look it up. We also have a group of crazy friends that I guess it's becoming a habit now. Every December, we do a plank challenge where December 1st, you do a 1 minute plank and then you add a minute for every day.
Oh boy. Yes.
So, last year, it still blew my mind that we planked for 31 minutes continuous. And it's like, oh my gosh, how did we do that? But like anything, inch by inch, and we just slowly built up, and it's like, wow, it's crazy. So,
Very cool. Well, I'll be interested in having you come back and tell me how your challenges went and how training's going for Boston if you're interested.
sure.
All right. Thank you so much time for spending some of your precious, running time or lifetime encouraging other runners. I appreciate
Oh,
it very much.
I hope anybody that's thinking about it just takes that step out the door because it's so worth it.
I feel the same way. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
All right. Thanks. Bye,
Thanks.
Trina.
Bye.